I'd like to welcome you to this weekly devotional. I want us to think about the thought of decisions of the heart. So often we begin making decisions. We decide by what feels good to us, what we think is right within ourselves. We begin to looking to our own self. In Proverbs 14, the 12th verse, he says, "There is a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way to death." I want us to think about that. Man often seeks poor pathways. He seeks to do things his way. When one goes hunting, especially, I spent some time in northeastern or northwestern New Mexico. When one decides he wants to hunt, he becomes familiar with that place. He has to really take his time and begin looking and seeing where the paths lead. Are they safe to follow, or are they difficult? And we as man, we need to take our time when we start making decisions. We need to be sure that we have them based on the right things. And so often we go off half-cocked and we make a decision and we decide this is what we want to do and we just go with it. Sometimes we pick destructive paths. In James, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 4, he says, "What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this? You that your passions are at war within you, you desire and you do not have, so you murder, you covet, you cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and you do not receive because you ask wrongly, to spend it on your own passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend with the world makes himself an enemy to God." This idea that we must pay attention, we must look. We read this verse and we thought, what causes the quarrels and what causes the fights among you? But it's the thoughts of man, it's the things that man wants to seek that cause these problems. When I begin going off half-cocked on these little trails and think that my plan is great without ever checking it out, it causes difficulties. It causes problems. We don't quite understand that. We want to go off, we want to do what we want to do, we want to seek what we want to seek. We begin searching the things of the world, doing as we please, seeking to have what we want. And we're going into this 4th chapter of James in verse 13. He says, "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and we will spend a year there and trade and make profit." Don't we do things like that and say, well, I'm just going to go. I know this makes good money. I know that's possible. I know I can go do it, and I am going to have the time to do it. How do we know that? How do we know how do we know what's going to happen to us the next moment? There's no ability to know what's happening in our next moment. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life where you are a mist that appears for a little while or a little time and then vanishes? Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, I will live and do this or that. Sometimes we become so arrogant in ourselves, believing we know what we should be doing, believing we have all the answers, when we should be seeking God. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails, to him, or do it for him, it is sin. We follow our hearts in arrogance. We fail to see the prideful, selfish person we are. We remove the glory from God. We have no ability to know even the next moment. In this thought, one looks only to self-wants, self-guidance, self-preservation. And it's all useless. It's without. We don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. We seek to make it the Lord's will. We need to consider God in everything that we do. We need to look and say, I want to see if this is what God would want a man to accomplish? Is it necessary for me to go make so much money? Is it good for me to be there? Is that a good decision? Is it going to lead me astray? Is it going to lead me somewhere? Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make up my own mind. I heard the statement said, is this what God would want you to do? And he said, well, no, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. Man, it's so full of arrogance. Jeremiah 17, verse 9, he says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? As you make your decisions today, as you make your decisions this week, as you make your decisions as you go through life, it would be so much better for a man to pray to God and seek his help and his guidance. Read his word and see if it's right or wrong, good or bad, knowing that we have no idea what our tomorrows are, what our next moment is. I know many people who have talked about what they're going to do and look at tomorrow and be gone. We need to be seeking to do God's will. Sometimes that keeps us from doing what we want to do. But I like what Jeremiah says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? You see, so often the heart wants to do what he wants to do. We need to be seeking what God wants us to do. I want to thank you for being here. I hope you look this week and say, what would God have me to do? Does he see this as good or evil? Is it right or wrong? Should I be walking another way? Should I be seeking another path? Seek his word to see what your path in life is. It's not about always where it is. It's about what it is. Thank you so much for being here with us, and may God bless you.